Young people should practice the core socialist values. May 4th, 2014. Speech at the seminar with teachers and students of Peking University. Dear students, teachers, and friends, today, as we celebrate China's Youth Day, I'm glad to be here with you, honoring the 95th anniversary of the May 4th movement. Footnote 1. The year 1939 saw the nomination of China's Youth Day on May 4th by the Northwestern Youth Association of National Salvation in the Shanxi, Gansu, Ningxia border region to carry forward and foster the glorious revolutionary tradition of the Chinese young people since the May 4th movement in 1919. In December 1949, the Government Administration Council, the predecessor of China State Council, of the Central People's Government officially named it China's Youth Day. End of footnote 1. Footnote 2. The May 4th movement, which started in Beijing on May 4th, 1919, was a patriotic movement of the Chinese people against imperialism and feudalism. Soon after the end of World War I, victorious nations, including Britain, the United States, France, Japan, and Italy, held the Paris Peace Conference, awarding Germany's rights in Shandong province to Japan. China was one of the victorious nations, but the Chinese Beiyang warlord government was about to sign the treaty. On the afternoon of May 4th, 1919, over 3,000 students of Peking University and other schools protested against the treaty and the compromise of the Beiyang government, provoking a quick response throughout the country. By June 3rd, the movement turned out to be a patriotic movement against imperialism and feudalism, with participants from the working class, urban petty bourgeois, and national bourgeoisie. It also sparked off the New Culture movement against feudal Chinese culture, bolstered by the founding of the journal Youth, later known as New Youth, in 1915. The New Culture movement called for Mr. Science and Mr. Democracy by replacing old moral standards and old literature with the new. The May 4th movement marked the end of the old democratic revolution and the start of the new democratic revolution in China, thereby opening a brand new chapter of revolution in Chinese history. End of footnote 2. Returning to the main text. First of all, I'd like to extend, on behalf of the Party Central Committee, my festival greetings to the teachers, staff, and students at Peking University and young people of all ethnic groups across the country. Also, I want to express my deepest respects to those who work in the fields of education and youth work throughout the country. Just now, Zhu Shanlu briefed us on the university's work, and students and young teachers also shared their ideas with us. Footnote 3. Zhu Shanlu born in 1953, serves as party secretary of the Peking University Committee. End of footnote 3. I was greatly inspired. This is my 5th visit to Peking University since I started to serve on the Party Central Committee, and each time I am here I find something new that impresses me. My feelings soar whenever I walk on this campus full of vigor and vitality, and I cannot help but sigh. The current generation of college students is just adorable, trustworthy, and reliable, and you are bound to have a bright future. The May 4th movement gave birth to the May 4th spirit of patriotism, progress, democracy, and science, kicking off the new democratic revolution in China, promoting the dissemination of Marxism in the country, and laying the groundwork for the founding of the CPC. Since the May 4th movement, under the leadership of the party, generations of highly motivated young men and women have written inspiring chapters in the struggles to save the country and rejuvenate the Chinese nation. With the motto, devoting my youth to creating a family of youth, a country of youth, a nation of youth, a mankind of youth, a planet of youth, and a universe of youth. Footnote 4. Li Dazhao, youth. Li Dazhao, 1889 to 1927, was a pioneer in acquiring and disseminating Marxism, and one of the founders of the CPC. End of footnote 4. Peking University was the base of the new culture movement, as well as a cradle of the May 4th movement, witnessing this glorious period in modern history. Footnote 5. See note 2 on this page. End of footnote 5. For a long time, teachers and students here have shared a common destiny with the country and the people, and advanced with the times and society, making remarkable contributions to our country's revolution, construction, and reform in all respects. The 2 centenary goals were put forward at the 18th CPC National Congress. As I have said before, we have never been so close as now to reaching the goal of the great renewal of the Chinese nation, and we are more confident and more capable than ever of fulfilling this goal. Nevertheless, a thing is yet to be done until it is done, as an old saying goes. Footnote 6. See note 2, page 60. The closer we approach the goal, end of footnote 6. The closer we approach the goal, the more we should redouble our efforts. We can afford no slackening. More importantly, we should encourage more young people to join the great cause of making the dream come true. The river of time flows non-stop day and night, and things change as the seasons change. Every generation of young people is offered the opportunities of the era for drawing a picture of life and creating history. Young people, the most sensitive weather glass of an era, are entrusted with the responsibilities of the times and share the glory of their days. Today, we are here to honor the May 4th movement. The best way for us to have the May 4th spirit display widely is to join the team of builders, pioneers, and dedicators, and together with the people of all ethnic groups, shoulder our historic responsibilities with firm beliefs, high morality, a wealth of knowledge, and competent skills. Students and teachers. University is a place not just for academic studies, but for seeking truth. Today, I'd like to take this opportunity to share with you my insights into the core socialist values. I was inspired by the spirit of the May 4th movement, which embodies the values the Chinese people and nation have pursued in modern history. Today, we should still adhere to and carry out these core values, highlighted by patriotism, progress, democracy, and science. Young people, as well as everyone else in the country, should uphold and carry out these core values. Looking at human history and social development, we find that the most lasting and profound power for a nation and country is the core values acknowledged by all. Core values carry the spiritual aspiration of a nation and country and represent the standard for judging right and wrong. An ancient proverb goes, "The way to great learning is to manifest bright virtue, and to treat the people as one's own family, thereby arriving at supreme goodness." Footnote 7. The Great Learning, Da Shui. End of footnote 7. Core values are in fact individual virtues as well as public, social, and national virtues. A country cannot prosper without virtues, nor can anyone succeed without virtues. Without shared core values, a nation and country will be at a loss to know what is right and what is wrong, and its people will have no code of conduct to follow. The result being that the nation and country can never progress. It has commonly occurred in our history and still happens across the globe. China is a big country with 1.3 billion people and 56 ethnic groups. Upon the recognition of the values with the greatest common denominator by the people of all ethnic groups, they work with one heart and one mind to strive in unity. This concerns our nation's future and destiny, as well as our people's happiness and well-being. Every era has its spirit, and likewise its values. In ancient China, our ancestors developed core values highlighted by propriety, righteousness, honesty, and a sense of shame, the four anchors of our moral foundation, and a question of life and death for the country. Footnote 8. Guangza. End of footnote 8. This was our ancestors' understanding of their core values. What are the core values for our people and country today? This is both a theoretical and a practical question. We should eventually agree upon this after sorting out opinions and understandings from all walks of life. The core socialist values that we should cultivate and practice are prosperity, democracy, civility, harmony, freedom, equality, justice, the rule of law, patriotism, dedication, integrity, and friendship. The values of prosperity, democracy, civility, and harmony are for the country. Those of freedom, equality, justice, and the rule of law for the society. And those of patriotism, dedication, integrity, and friendship for citizens. They explain what sort of country and society we are striving for and what kind of citizens we are cultivating. Since ancient times, the Chinese people have developed their country through studying the nature of things to acquire knowledge, correcting thoughts with sincerity, cultivating the moral self, managing the family, governing the state, and safeguarding peace under heaven. As we see it today, the principles of studying the nature of things, correcting thoughts with sincerity, and cultivating the moral self are for individuals. The principle of managing the family is for the society. And those of governing the state and safeguarding peace under heaven are for the country. What we put forward for the core socialist values is a combination of requirements for the country, society, and citizens, which represent the nature of socialism, carry forward the fine traditional Chinese culture, draw on the best of world civilization, and reflect the spirit of the times. Prosperity, democracy, civility, harmony, freedom, equality, justice, the rule of law, patriotism, dedication, integrity, and friendship are all ideas that inherit the essence of the outstanding traditional Chinese culture, embody the ideals and faith formed by modern Chinese people through unremitting and painstaking efforts, and reflect the wishes and vision of every Chinese citizen. We should foster the core socialist values throughout society. The people should join hands and work persistently to make China richer and stronger, more democratic, more harmonious, and more beautiful, so that our country can be confident enough to stand proudly among all other nations. Since the Opium War of the 1840s, the Chinese people have long cherished a dream of realizing a great national rejuvenation and building China into a strong, democratic, and harmonious modern socialist country. The highest and most fundamental interests of the nation. That is what our 1.3 billion people are striving for. China used to be a world economic power. However, it missed its chance in the wake of the Industrial Revolution and consequent dramatic changes, and thus was left behind and suffered humiliation under foreign invasion. Things got worse, especially after the Opium War, when the nation was plagued by poverty and weakness, allowing others to trample upon and manipulate us. We must not let this tragic history repeat itself. The construction of a strong, democratic, and harmonious modern socialist country is our goal and responsibility. For the nation, for our forefathers, and for our future generations. Therefore, we should maintain our willpower, intensify our faith, and walk unswervingly along the road towards our destination. China has stood up. It will never again tolerate being bullied by any nation. Yet it will never follow in the footsteps of the big powers, which seek hegemony once they grow strong. Our country is following a path of peaceful development. Why are we so confident? Because we have developed and become stronger. China has won worldwide respect with its century-long efforts. Its prestige keeps rising, and its influence keeps expanding. Today's China forms a sharp contrast to China in the 19th century, when the country was humiliated, its sovereignty was infringed upon, and its people were bullied by foreigners. Chinese civilization has formed a unique value system over several millennia. The brilliant traditional Chinese culture is the essence of the nation and has deep roots in the Chinese people's mentality, influencing their way of thinking and behavior unconsciously. Today we advocate and carry forward the core socialist values through absorbing the rich nourishment of Chinese culture, so as to invigorate its vitality and broaden its influence. Here are some quotations from ancient classics that I'd like to share with you today. The people are the foundation of a state. Footnote 9. The Book of History, Shongshu. End of footnote 9. The harmony of nature and man. Footnote 10. An ancient Chinese philosophical viewpoint from the idea of God's will of the Western Zhou dynasty, 1046 to 771 BC, which believed that heaven and man were closely related. End of footnote 10. Harmony without uniformity. Footnote 11. The Analects of Confucius. Lun Yu. End of footnote 11. As heaven changes through movement, a gentleman makes unremitting efforts to perfect himself. Footnote 12. The Book of Changes, Zhou Yi, also known as the I Ching, one of the Confucian classics. The book was used as a work for the divination of nature, of natural and social changes through the calculation of the 8 trigrams representing heaven, earth, thunder, wind, water, fire, mountain, and lake. Believing that the interactions of the yin and the yang give birth to everything in the universe, and advocating simple yet dialectical viewpoints, such as changes derive from the mutual acceleration of the hard and soft. End of footnote 12. When the great way prevailed, a public spirit ruled all under heaven. Footnote 13. The Book of Rights, Li Ji. End of footnote 13. Everyone is responsible for his country's rise or fall. Footnote 14. Gu Yan Wu, Records of Daily Knowledge, Lu. Gu Yan Wu, 1613 to 1682, was a thinker and historian in the late Ming, 1368 to 1644, and early Qing, 1644 to 1911, dynasties. End of footnote 14. Govern the country with virtue and educate the people with culture. A gentleman has a good knowledge of righteousness. Footnote 15. The Analects of Confucius, Lun Yu. End of footnote 15. A gentleman is broad-minded. Footnote 16. Ibid. End of footnote 16. A gentleman takes morality as his bedrock. Footnote 17. Ibid. End of footnote 17. Be true in word and resolute in deed. Footnote 18. Ibid. End of footnote 18. If a man does not keep his word, what is he good for? Footnote 19. Ibid. End of footnote 19. A man of high moral quality will never feel lonely. Footnote 20. Ibid. End of footnote 20. The benevolent man loves others. Footnote 21. The Mencius, Mengzi, one of the Confucian classics compiled by Mencius and his disciples. The book is a collection of anecdotes and conversations of the Confucian thinker and philosopher Mencius during the Warring States period 475 to 221 BC. It is one of the four classics of Confucianism, the other three being the Great Learning, the Doctrine of the Mean, and the Analects of Confucius. End of footnote 21. Do things for the good of others. Footnote 22. Ibid. End of footnote 22. Don't do unto others what you don't want others to do unto you. Footnote 23. The Analects of Confucius, Lun Yu. End of footnote 23. Care for each other and help one another. Footnote 24. The Mencius, Mengzi. End of footnote 24. Respect others' elders as one respects one's own, and care for others' children as one cares for one's own. Footnote 25. Ibid. End of footnote 25. Help the poor and assist those in difficulty. Care less about quantity and more about quality. Footnote 26. See Note 4, page 111. End of footnote 26. These thoughts and ideas all displayed and still demonstrate distinctive national features and have the indelible values of the times. We have updated them in keeping abreast of the times, while carrying them forward in an unbroken line. As Chinese, we should always keep our own unique inner world spirit, uphold values that we practice every day without noticing. The core socialist values we advocate today represent the inheritance and upgrading of outstanding, traditional Chinese culture. Values appear and develop in the process of human beings getting to know and shape nature and society. Core values vary in different nations and countries due to different national conditions and courses of development. The core values of a nation and country are closely related to its history and culture, as well as to what its people are striving for, and to the present issues it needs to resolve. There are no two leaves exactly alike on earth. A nation or people of a country must know who they are, where they came from, and where they are heading. Keep on going when you have made your choice. On December 26 last year, I said at the meeting commemorating the 120th birthday of Mao Zedong, boasting a vast land of 9.6 million square kilometers, a rich cultural history, a rich cultural heritage, and a strong bond among the 1.3 billion Chinese people, we are resolved to go our own way. We have a big stage to display our advantages on, a long and rich history to draw benefit from, and a powerful impetus to push us ahead. We, Chinese people, every single one of us, should draw confidence from this. We should modestly learn from the best of other civilizations, but never forget our own origin. We must not blindly copy the development models of other countries, nor accept their dictation. What I mean here is that we should enhance our confidence in the path we have chosen, in the theories we have devised, and in the system we have established to reach our goal of development and make the Chinese dream come true. In the face of all blows, not bending low, it still stands fast, whether from east, west, south, or north, the wind doth blast. Footnote 27. See Note 2, page 26. End of footnote 27. Our confidence is supported by our core values. Why am I talking about the core socialist values with you young people? Because your value orientation will decide the values of the whole of society in the years to come. Besides, young people are at the time of life when they form and establish their values. It is therefore very important to offer some guidance. That reminds me of something that happens in our daily life. When we button up our coat, we may inadvertently put the first button in the wrong buttonhole, and that will result in all the other buttons being put in the wrong holes. That's why we say that young people should button right in the early days of their life. A deep well is dug, starting with a shallow pit. Footnote 28. Liu Zhou. Liuza. Liu Zhou, 514 to 556, was a man of letters of the state of northern Qi during the northern and southern dynasties, 386 to 589. End of footnote 28. Every young person should learn about the core socialist values starting right now. Take them as his basic rules and disseminate them throughout society. When young people adopt the core socialist values, they should emphasize the following points. First, work diligently to acquire true knowledge. Knowledge is an important cornerstone for the cultivation of the core values. The great philosophers of ancient Greece believed that knowledge was a virtue. Our ancestors also asserted one cannot enhance one's ability and wisdom if one does not work hard. Neither can one succeed without ambition. Footnote 29. Zhuge Liang. Advice to my son. Zhuge Liang, 181 to 234. Also known as Kong Ming, was a legendary prime minister and statesman of the Shu Kingdom during the Three Kingdoms period, 220 to 280. End of footnote 29. A person enjoys only once the youthful days at college, so you should cherish them. To acquire knowledge, one has to study diligently, intensively, and persistently. Lu Xun once said, "Who said I'm a genius? I spent all my time working when others were sipping coffee." Footnote 30. Lu Xun, 1881 to 1936, also known as Zhou Zhongshu and Zhou Shuren, was a literateur, thinker, and revolutionary, as well as one of the founders of modern Chinese literature. End of footnote 30. Footnote 31. Postscripts of selected works of Lu Xun. Selected works of Lu Xun, Volume 20, Chinese edition, People's Literature Publishing House, Beijing, 1972, page 663. End of footnote 31. Returning to the main text. In college days, young we were, schoolmates, at life's full flowering. Footnote 32. Mao Zedong, Changsha, Mao Zedong Poems, English edition, Foreign Languages Press, Beijing, 1998, page 5. End of footnote 32. One can totally throw oneself into seeking knowledge without any distractions, learning from teachers, exchanging views with classmates, and rummaging through piles of books. So there is no reason not to study hard. Work hard, acquire more knowledge, and turn what you have learned into your own views and ideas. I hope that you will not only concentrate on book knowledge, but also care about the people, the country, and the world, and assume your responsibility for society. Second, cultivate morality and virtue, and pay attention to them in practice. Virtue is the root. Footnote 33. The Great Learning, Da Shui. End of footnote 33. Mr. Tsai Yuan Pei believed, "He who is strong physically and talented but has no virtue will end up on the side of vice." Footnote 34. Tsai Yuan Pei, 1868 to 1940, was a democratic revolutionary, educator, and scientist. He served as president of Peking University from 1916 to 1927. End of footnote 34. Footnote 35. Tsai Yuan Pei. Speech at the Patriotic Girls' School. Complete Works of Tsai Yuan Pei, Volume 3, Chinese edition, Zhonghua Book Company, Beijing, 1984, page 8. End of footnote 35. Returning to the main text. Virtues are fundamental for both individuals and society. What is most important is to cultivate morality. This explains why we select those who are both talented and morally cultivated for our work, with morality as priority. One can be placed in the right position only if one recognizes virtue, follows social ethics, and restricts personal desires. When talking about cultivating morality, one needs to have high ambitions, as well as pragmatic plans. To devote oneself to one's country and serve one's people. This is the great virtue with which one is able to accomplish the great cause. In the meantime, one needs to start to do small things well and be self-disciplined even in small matters. Learning from fine things that may appear and correcting any mistakes that may occur One needs to cultivate public and personal virtues, learn to work, to be thrifty, to be grateful, to help others, to be modest, to be tolerant, to examine oneself, and to exercise self-restraint. Footnote 36. The Book of Changes, Zhou Yi. End of footnote 36. Third, learn to tell right from wrong and make correct decisions. As our ancestors believed, reading without thinking makes one muddled. Thinking without reading makes one flighty. Footnote 37. The Analects of Confucius, Lun Yu. End of footnote 37. Knowing what is right or wrong, what is the correct direction, and what is the proper way to follow, one is bound to reap the reward of one's work. Facing a complex and fast-changing world, an information era, with the surge of various schools of thought, a multifaceted society of genuine and false ideas, and the pressure associated with one's academic pursuit, relationships, and employment, you may feel somewhat confused, hesitant, or frustrated. This is a normal experience everybody will go through. The key is to learn to think about and analyze situations before making decisions in order to arrive at correct decisions. You should be sturdy, confident, and self-reliant. You must form a correct world outlook, view of life and values. Then you will see, crystal clear, the true nature of society and have a better understanding of your life's experience and be able to tell what is right and what is wrong, what is primary and what is secondary, what is true and what is false, what is good and what is evil, and what is beautiful and what is ugly, before making judgments and decisions. As a Tong verse goes, gold glitters only after countless washings and sievings. Footnote 38. Liu Yu Shi. 9 poems. Ju Shou. Liu Yu Shi, 772 to 842, was a man of letters and philosopher of the Tang Dynasty. 618 to 907. End of footnote 38. Fourth, be honest and sincere. Do solid work and be an upright person. The correct way needs to be pursued in practice, while morality requires no empty talk. One should be more pragmatic. Knowledge and action should go hand in hand, and the core values should be turned into moral pursuits, as well as a drive to make people engage in conscious action. The Book of Rites says, learn extensively, inquire earnestly, think profoundly, discriminate clearly, and practice sincerely. Footnote 39. The Book of Rites, Li Zhi, one of the Confucian classics, is an important work for the study of ancient China's social forms, laws and regulations, and traditional Confucian canon, covering the realms of society, politics, moral principles, philosophy, and religion. End of footnote 39. Footnote 40. The doctrine of the mean, Zhongyang, one of the Confucian classics, used to be part of the Book of Rites, published as an independent book during the Song Dynasty, 960 to 1279. It became one of the four classics of Confucianism. The other three being the Great Learning, the Analects of Confucius, and the Mencius. End of footnote 40. Returning to the main text. Some people believe that sages are mediocre people who work hard, while mediocre people are sages who refuse to work hard. With more opportunities, young people should make their steps steady, lay a solid foundation, and make unremitting efforts. It is no good for study or running a business if one works intermittently or chops and changes. Difficult things are done starting from easy ones. A great undertaking begins with minor work. Footnote 41. Lao Tzu, or Tao Te Ching. This is an important philosophical work from ancient China, which proposed the thought of the Tao and advocated the ideas of governing by doing nothing and going along with nature. End of footnote 41. No matter what you opt to do, success always favors hard workers. Young people should take a difficult environment as a challenge or test. Little strokes fell great oaks. Success awaits those who work doggedly and unyieldingly, and those who are never daunted by repeated setbacks. The cultivation of the core values can't be done overnight. It requires efforts from the easy to the difficult, from close up to far away, until it becomes a faith and idea that we follow conscientiously. When things are smooth, you may be confident. When there are frustrations, you may have doubts and waver. In all circumstances, we should always uphold the core socialist values which have been formed and developed here in our country. Make contributions to the great cause in the modern era, and fulfill our lifetime expectations. Students and teachers. The Party Central Committee has decided to build world-class colleges and universities, a strategic policy that we should follow without hesitation. To make them world-class, they must feature Chinese characteristics. It won't do to copy others mechanically, because we always believe that the more national, the more international. In this world, there is only one Harvard University, University of Oxford, Stanford University, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and University of Cambridge. Likewise, there is only one Peking University, Tsinghua University, Zhejiang University, Fudan University, and Nanjing University in China. We should draw on the world's best experience in running institutions of higher learning, follow the rules of education, and establish more excellent colleges and universities on Chinese soil. Lu Xun asserted, Peking University is always innovative and plays a pioneering role in reforming movements, leading China along an upward path towards a better future. Footnote 42. Lu Xun, Peking University, in my eyes. Complete Works of Lu Xun, Volume 3, Chinese edition, People's Literature Publishing House, Beijing, 1972, page 155. End of footnote 42. The decision on advancing the reform in an all-round way was made at the third plenary session of the 18th CPC Central Committee, defining the demands for the further reform of higher education in China. What we must do now is to turn this blueprint into reality. Institutions of higher learning should take the lead in educational reform throughout the country, centering on the fundamental tasks of building virtues and morality, and moving faster in establishing an educational system and mechanism that is full of vigor and vitality, efficient, more open, and favoring educational development in a scientific way. I do hope that Peking University can realize its long-cherished dream as soon as possible of advancing into the ranks of world-class universities through painstaking efforts, reform, and innovation. Teachers are entrusted with the noblest mission in this world. Mr. Mei Yi-chi opined that the key to the success of a university lies in having a lot of highly accomplished gurus rather than imposing buildings. Footnote 43. Mei Yi-chi, 1889 to 1962. Served as the president of Tsinghua University from 1931 to 1948. End of footnote 43. Footnote 44. This is an idea for running schools initiated by Mei Yi-chi in his inaugural speech on accepting the presidency of Tsinghua University on December 2nd, 1931. End of footnote 44. Returning to the main text. What he meant by highly accomplished gurus, as I see it, are people most knowledgeable in their academic fields, who are also virtuous, always bearing in mind their responsibilities. Teachers should be ready to serve as human ladders, inspiring the souls of the students whom they are teaching with the help of their personal charisma and scholarly attainments. Party committees and governments at all levels should pay closer attention to colleges and universities, show more concern for the students, and erect a platform for them to dream upon and make their dreams come true. We should accelerate the reform in an all-round way, create a fair and just social environment, promote social mobility, and inspire the vigor and creativity of young people. We should improve the system of employment and business startups so as to assist graduates at the beginning of their lifelong careers. Leading officials at all levels should keep in communication with the students, make friends with them, and listen to what they have to say. Today, the majority of college students are around the age of 20, and they will be under the age of 30 by 2020, when we complete the building of a moderately prosperous society in all respects. They will be around 60 by the mid-21st century, when we basically realize our country's modernization. That is to say, you will participate in the cause of reaching the 2 centenary goals, along with myriads of other young people. I believe that life is meaningless for anyone without faith, without dreams, without concerted endeavors, and without contributions. I hope that you can create your own wonderful life while making the Chinese dream come true, since you have never been given a platform as spacious as this, or as promising as this. I believe that young Chinese people today are more than capable of undertaking the historic mission entrusted to them by the party and people, and will go on to write a brilliant chapter worthy of our times in their efforts to take advantage of their youthful vigor, explore life, and contribute to society. Foster and practice core socialist values from childhood. May 30th, 2014. Speech at a discussion held at the Minzu Primary School of Haidian District in Beijing. Dear students, teachers, and friends, good morning. We are happy to be here today to attend your Young Pioneers event and initiation ceremony for new young pioneers. Footnote 1. The Young Pioneers of China is a national organization for children run by the Communist Youth League, an organization of young adults that is under the CPC. It was named the Youth and Children of China movement when it was founded on October 13, 1949, by the Communist Youth League, and was given its present name on August 21st, 1953. End of footnote 1. International Children's Day is just around the corner. Here I wish you and children of all ethnic groups in China a happy festival. Attaching great importance to moral cultivation, Minzu Primary School of Haidian District has organized many activities and achieved good results. Just now, I listened to some thought-provoking speeches from you students, teachers, and parents. You all talked about the need to strengthen moral education and to guide children to foster and practice core socialist values from childhood. This is great. I have the same idea, and I want to discuss this issue with you. The cultural progress of a nation and the development of a country require continuous efforts of generations and various driving forces. Among these forces, core values are the deepest and most everlasting. The Chinese nation boasts a long history and splendid culture of over 5,000 years, and our civilization has developed in an unbroken line from ancient to modern times. How could our nation survive and develop over this long course of history? One important reason is that our nation has a moral pursuit and ethos that have been carried on for generations. The written Chinese characters we now use are not basically different from the oracle bone inscriptions of the Shang dynasty, circa 1600 to 1046 BC. And the brilliant insights of Lao Tzu, Confucius, Mencius, Zhuangzi, and other ancient sages have been passed down to us today. Footnote 2. Lao Tzu, dates unknown, also known as Li Dan and Li was a philosopher and the founder of philosophical Taoism in the spring and autumn period, 770 to 476 BC. His ideas include the Tao follows nature, existence and non-existence give birth to each other, and governance by doing nothing. It was said that he wrote Lao Tzu or Tao Te Ching. End of footnote 2. Footnote 3. Confucius, 551 to 479 BC, also known as Kong Chu and Zhong Ni, was a philosopher, educator, statesman, and the founder of Confucianism in late spring and autumn period, 770 to 476 BC. He created a school of thought with benevolence, Ren, as the core. He devoted himself to education and compiled numerous ancient classics. His main ideas and doctrines were recorded in the Analects of Confucius. From the Han Dynasty, 206 BC to AD 220, Confucianism became the mainstream of traditional Chinese culture for over 2,000 years. And Confucius was respected as a sage by China's feudal rulers. End of footnote 3. Footnote 4. Mencius, circa 372 to 289 BC, also known as Ming Ke and Zi Yu, was a philosopher and educator in the mid-Warring States period, 475 to 221 BC. He believed that man is an integral part of nature, put forth a theory that man is born good, and summarized moral rules as four virtues: benevolence, justice, propriety, and wisdom. He carried forward and developed the idea of benevolence and the rule of virtue propounded by Confucius, and raised a new idea that the people are more important than the ruler. He was the most famous Confucian after Confucius, or secondary sage. He wrote the Mencius, Meng Zi. End of footnote 4. Footnote 5. Zhuangzi, 369 to 286 BC, was a Taoist philosopher of the Warring States period. He carried forward Lao Tzu's thought and believed that Taoism was the highest principle of the world. His philosophy embodies the goal that heaven, earth, and I were produced together, and all things and I are one. End of footnote 5. Returning to the main text. Our civilization has developed for several thousand years without interruption. This is a unique achievement in world history. Today, our nation is set to make further progress. We must take stock of the current conditions and carry on our national spirit and culture, especially our traditional virtues. The core socialist values we now uphold are prosperity, democracy, civility, harmony, freedom, equality, justice, the rule of law, patriotism, dedication, integrity, and friendship. These values embody the thoughts of the ancient sages, the aspiration of public-spirited people, the ideals of the revolutionary martyrs, and the expectations of ordinary people. All Chinese people should act conscientiously to foster and practice these values. I have stressed this issue on several occasions. In February this year, the Political Bureau of the Party Central Committee held a special group study session on the topic. I made a speech in which I raised the requirements for the whole of society in this regard. I also talked about this issue when visiting the students of Peking University on Youth Day, May 4th, and when meeting leading officials in Shanghai a few days ago. Today, I want to talk about it to you pupils, because in order for an idea to be established and developed on a long-term basis, we must start by telling our children about it. Children are the future of our country and the hope of the Chinese nation. As Liang Qi said in his Young China, "If the youth are wise, the country will be wise. If the youth prosper, the country will prosper. If the youth are strong, the country will be strong. If the youth progress, the country will progress." Footnote 6. Young China was an essay written by Liang Qi 1873 to 1929, a thinker and scholar, and one of the leaders of the 100 Days Reform, or 1898 Reform, in late Qing dynasty. End of footnote 6. The new replacing the old is an irresistible law, and the future will always be created by today's children. Last year, on International Children's Day, I said that every adult grew up from childhood. The realization of our dream is reliant on us and, more importantly, on you. Children are sensitive and are ready to accept all beautiful things. Since antiquity, it is from adolescence that heroes emerge. To create a better future for our nation, we need to encourage our children to set great goals and shape their characters and ensure a sound environment for their growth. How should children foster and practice the core socialist values? They should do so in a different way from adults, a way which conforms to their ages and traits. Here I want to raise 4 points. Remembering the requirements, following role models, starting from childhood, and accepting help. First, remembering the requirements means that children need to learn by heart the core socialist values and always keep these values in mind. You pupils are still studying at school and don't have much social experience, so you may not thoroughly understand the meaning of these values, but you will acquire more knowledge and experience as you grow up and thus gain a better understanding of them, as long as you bear them in mind. In this process, you need to think about the requirements and acquire a better understanding in your studies and life. Through the ages, most people with great achievements have been strict with themselves since childhood. Second, following role models means that children need to learn from heroes and advanced figures, and to cultivate good characters through study. There are many young heroes in our history and in the revolution, construction and reform drive of our people under the leadership of the party. You may have heard some of their names from films such as Red Children, Jonga the Soldier Boy, The Feathered Letter, Little Hero Soldier, and Young Heroic Sisters of the Mongolian Grassland. Now we have more exemplary children. I know that some students in your school have won the title of the most beautiful children. Besides, there are many other role models from all professions whose examples we should follow. For example, astronauts, Olympic champions, scientists, model workers, young volunteers, and many other people who are ready to help others or to take on a just cause, and who are honest, trustworthy, filial, or dedicated to their work. The power of role models is infinite. You should take them as examples in pursuing virtues. Confucius said, "When we see men of virtue, we should think of equaling them. When we see men of a contrary character, we should examine ourselves." Footnote 7. The Analects of Confucius, Lun Yu. End of footnote 7. Third, starting from childhood means that children need to start with themselves and make every possible effort to cultivate good morality. A young idler, an old beggar. Footnote 8. Selected Yue Fu ballads. Yue Fu Shi Xuan. Chinese edition. People's Literature Press, Beijing, 1954. Page 16. End of footnote 8. And a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. Everyone's life consists of small matters. Starting with small virtues, you can nurture great virtues. Being young, you may not be able to do as many things for our society as adults do, but you can start from minor things. You can ask yourself every day, do I love my country? Do I love my school? Do I study hard? Do I care about my classmates? Do I respect my teachers? Do I honor my parents? Do I conform to social morality? Do I admire good people and good deeds? Do I feel angry at bad people and bad things? The more you think, the more you will urge yourself to act. The more you act, the more virtues you will acquire. I heard that some students like to compete with each other in food, clothes, or parents' jobs, and some even take pride in having cars to take them to school and then back home. Such competition makes them stray from the correct path. You should never vie with each other in these matters. A hard life breeds great talents, whereas an easy life is not the way to cultivate great men. Work hard when young, and you will have a future. Time flies, and you should not slacken your efforts. Footnote 9. Du Shun Hei. For nephews at school. Du Shun Hei, 846 to 904, was a poet of the Tang Dynasty. 618 to 907. End of footnote 9. However, you can compete with each other as to who is more ambitious, who works harder, who loves work more, who loves physical training more, or who is more caring. Fourth, accepting help means that children need to accept both suggestions and criticisms, and grow up in a good environment where you correct your mistakes and make yourself a better person. No one is flawless. We make progress by overcoming shortcomings and correcting mistakes. As the saying goes, a jade uncut will not be a useful vessel. A man without learning will not know the way. Footnote 10. 3-character classic, San Zi Jing, a textbook for elementary education in ancient China. It was said to have been written by Wang Yinglin, 1223 to 1296, or Xi Jinping, 1234 to 1324. In the Song Dynasty, 960 to 1279, and was supplemented in the Ming, 1368 to 1644, and Qing, 1644 to 1911 dynasties. Written in triplets of characters for easy memorization, the book focuses on moral education. End of footnote 10. At your age, you children are establishing a worldview, an outlook on life and values, and you need help. Don't complain that parents talk too much, that teachers are too strict, or that classmates are overreaching. Think about whether they are right, or if they are doing so for your good. If they are, you should accept their admonitions. You may not do well in all aspects. It doesn't matter. As long as you see where you have fallen down and are willing to improve, you are making progress. Sometimes you may not know where you are going wrong, but your parents, teachers, and classmates may point it out. Then you are also making progress if you correct what you have done wrong. Of course, good medicine tastes bitter, and good advice is harsh to the ear. We should be strict with ourselves and make a habit of modestly accepting criticism and help. A bright future awaits you as long as you take a correct path from childhood, practice what you learn, and do your best. Families, schools, organizations of the young pioneers of China, and our society as a whole should all take the responsibility of promoting core socialist values among children. The family is the first classroom, and a parent is the child's first teacher. Parents should always set a good example for their children and guide them with correct actions, ideas, and methods. Parents should teach children to appreciate the true, the good, and the beautiful, and to keep away from the false, the bad, and the ugly in everyday life. Parents should observe children closely for any change in idea or action, and educate and guide them when needed. Schools should attach greater importance to moral education and work hard to enhance the school spirit and teachers' professional ethics. Teachers should take into consideration children's personalities and traits, and patiently impart knowledge and cultivate virtues. Schools should ensure that their activities are good for the students' physical and mental health, and will exert a favorable influence on their characters. Schools should also ensure that all students receive sincere care and help, making the seeds of core socialist values take root and grow in their hearts. The Chinese young pioneers need to launch educational campaigns and activities to better serve students in fostering and practicing core socialist values, and unite educate, and guide children through these activities. Meanwhile, our society needs to understand, respect, and care about and offer help to children. Provide a favorable environment for them, and oppose and prevent violations of their rights and damage to their physical or mental health. The waves behind drive on those before, and the younger generation will excel the previous one. I believe that children of this generation will have great goals and beautiful dreams, love study, work, and our country, and conscientiously foster and practice core socialist values from childhood. I believe you have made yourselves ready to realize the Chinese dream, guided by your flag of the star and torch. Footnote 11. The flag of the young pioneers of China is composed of a 5-pointed star and a torch, the former symbolizing the leadership of the CPC and the latter symbolizing brightness. End of footnote 11.